We're starting off with Shane McMahon, who in July met with Tony Khan at an Arlington, Texas airport, and the pair discussed possibilities going forward and their mutual love for pro wrestling. This meeting sparked rumors that McMahon would be joining AEW and came after Conrad Thompson claimed that Shane had brought up the idea earlier this year. WWE's prodigal son has yet to appear for AEW, but this week, McMahon was once again in an airport and once again had an experience one could call all elite. On social media, the Young Bucks shared a photo with McMahon and they said they had an interesting flight today following the Bucks' appearance at AEW Grand Slam in New York City. According to Cultaholic, a source shared that the Bucks and McMahon were on the same flight, a 6:29 a.m. Eastern departure from JFK Airport in New York City to Salt Lake City, Utah. This route is often used for connecting flights to California, and it's reported that the three were seen chatting and laughing before boarding. Shane sat right behind the Bucks in first class, but he said it was just a coincidence that they ended up on the same flight. As to what the pair discussed, it was reported that it was actually little, as the Bucks reportedly slept through much of the flight, hardly a surprise given all they did at Grand Slam. After the flight landed around 9 a.m. local time, the three hung back together, likely to take the photo that was posted to social media. Whether this meeting was indeed mere coincidence or a calculated move by AEW, many fans believe bringing Shane on board would bring value to AEW as well as overall excitement. What do you think about Shane McMahon and the Young Bucks meeting? Do you believe it was purely a coincidence, or was it orchestrated? Let us know in the comments section below. During AEW Grand Slam, MVP interrupted Prince Nana during an update on Swerve Strickland's injury, as Nana explained that Swerve was still sidelined following All Out. MVP berated Nana's management of Swerve and made reference to Adam Page burning down Swerve's home while saying Nana is more interested in dancing and selling coffee. MVP hinted that he had a real business proposal for Swerve Strickland once he's ready to return, hinting at a future alliance, and handed Nana a business card to deliver to his client. Eagle-eyed fans have spotted an interesting detail about this segment, as if you zoom into the business card, you'll find MVP's name and the words Hurt Syndicate beneath it. This more or less confirms that MVP will have his own faction with him in AEW, as the Hurt Business alum trademarked the Hurt Syndicate earlier this year. MVP clearly wants Swerve in this group, and he may not have to wait long to get an answer, as while he's off TV, fans can expect him back within a matter of weeks. Fightful Select reports that Strickland has always been expected to make an appearance at WrestleDream, which will take place on October 12th in Tacoma, Washington. PW Insider reports that MVP signed with AEW last month with an agreement being reached in late August, and MVP has already teased more to come in his All Elite tenure. MVP has confirmed that he will be appearing for AEW next week, and it'll be interesting to see how his role develops in the coming weeks, especially when it comes to Swerve Strickland. In January, WWE Raw will move to Netflix in the biggest change to the show since going to 3 hours in 2012, and fans are excited about what's to come for the Red brand. One popular theory among fans is that once Raw leaves cable, they'll go back to having an edgier product, as they won't be constricted by TV's content ratings. Speaking to Kiss FM 103.5 in Chicago, though, CM Punk addressed the rumors of a more explicit show and emphasized that fans shouldn't expect drastic changes. He explained, "I don't think you're going to see much difference than what it is now. We're pushing boundaries a little bit here and there, but I want to temper people's expectations. Some fans are saying, oh, they're going to Netflix, they're going to be full frontal and swearing. That's absolutely not the case." Punk reflected on lessons learned from WWE's Attitude Era and argued that continuously trying to push the boundaries can only take a show so far. He said, "You can only do that for so long before you're trying to outdo yourself every week, and then it just becomes bad television." Punk also joked about Rhea Ripley using profanity once Raw moves to Netflix. He doubted it'll happen despite the change, as he said, "As much as Rhea wants to come out there and talk like an Aussie and drop a C word here and there, I don't think you're going to see that." While Punk doesn't expect major changes to content, he did hint at possible tweaks to the show's format once it's on Netflix, especially with the handling of commercials. Punk believes that Raw will still have commercials, but they may not be during matches, which would allow for superstars to compete without their flow being interrupted. WWE is heading into a new era on Netflix, and CM Punk's insight gives fans an idea of what they can expect, as Raw's content will stay true to what's made WWE a global phenomenon. What are your thoughts on CM Punk's comments regarding Raw's transition to Netflix? Do you think WWE should push the envelope more, or keep the current balance? Sound off below. As we mentioned, Raw will move to Netflix in January 2025, and there's still a lot of questions to be answered about the Red brand's future on the streaming juggernaut. One question that has seemingly been answered is where the show will happen, as WrestleTix reports that the January 6th Raw will take place in Los Angeles, California. The final Raw on the USA Network will air on December 30th from Houston, Texas, and these two shows will be historic and mark one of the biggest changes in WWE history. Now, WWE has one of the most talented rosters in wrestling today, but everyone is not guaranteed TV time, and as of late, some top names have been noticeably absent. Shinsuke Nakamura, for example, hasn't wrestled on WWE TV since April 22nd Raw, where he lost to Sheamus, leaving fans to wonder what is happening with the King of Strong Style. According to Fightful Select, Nakamura is healthy and isn't injured, but simply isn't being used on TV for the time being, though he did compete during WWE's tours of Japan and Europe. AJ Styles is another top name missing as the former world champion, and like Nakamura, he too is healthy and also competed during the recent overseas tours. In Styles' case though, it's reported that creative differences are what's keeping him away from TV, as WWE's team and AJ can't decide on the best way to reintroduce him to programming. Hopefully something can come soon, as it's reported that despite he and Nakamura both being talented wrestlers, they are among those at risk of being released in the near future. It's been reported that Triple H and management are considering trimming the roster soon enough, with cuts expected either shortly before or after Raw's move to Netflix. It's noted that there is a strong belief WWE will reduce its roster after the Netflix move, and despite being top names, AJ and Nakamura are at risk of being given the pink slip. With reports of AJ's WWE contract expiring in the next few months, his role in WWE remains increasingly uncertain, and we'll have to see what the future holds for him and Nakamura. The last time fans saw Charlotte Flair compete, she suffered an injury during a December 2023 edition of SmackDown during a match with Asuka. On Twitter this week, Flair issued a happy birthday message to Asuka, and the Empress responded by saying she and Flair have the best relationship. In response, Flair agreed but told Asuka to not go easy when they next wrestle, adding that she certainly won't, and used a gif of herself beating Asuka with a kendo stick for good measure. Flair is eager to get back in the ring, and it's been reported that WWE is already making plans for her return, which could include the Women's Championship held by Nia Jax. As for Asuka, it's likely she and Flair will wrestle again, and what do you hope to see for Flair when she's back in the ring? Sound off in the comments. When Jeff Hardy walked out of a WWE live event in late 2021, the company demanded he entered rehab, but when Jeff refused, adamant that he was clean, he was released from the company. When a test on Hardy confirmed that he was indeed clean, WWE did what they could to bring him back and keep him away from AEW, including reportedly offering him a Hall of Fame spot. Obviously, Jeff said no, and during a recent chat, Sean Ross Sapp asked about a possible TNA Hall of Fame induction, but Jeff mistook him for talking about WWE's Hall of Fame. He said, "I denied it. I was just in a bad place after my dad had passed away. I just got to a point where there was no return, something had to happen, but it just didn't feel right when they offered it to me." Both as a tag team wrestler and for his singles work, Jeff is worthy of a WWE Hall of Fame induction, and his brother Matt said this week that he's open to a TNA induction as a team. As to whether either happens, that isn't clear right now, but do you think Jeff should agree to a Hall of Fame induction when the time is right for him? Let us know down below. During this week's Raw, the cryptic "Fate is Woven" package aired, teasing the return of the Viking Raiders with the use of an ancient runic alphabet. The runes used in this vignette spell out the word war in said alphabet, and while many saw this as a nod to the team's past as the War Raiders, it's also teasing their future. On WrestleVotes Radio, it was said that the vignette is indeed teasing the return of the Raiders, but that they'll be returning as the War Raiders instead of the Viking Raiders. It's added that the person who didn't like the War Raiders name, that is Vince McMahon, is no longer in charge, so reverting to the old name is a decision from the new administration. Eric and Ivar have competed as War Machine in ROH and New Japan, and were the War Raiders in NXT, and when called to Raw, they were briefly the Viking Experience before the Viking Raiders. Both members of the team have been out with injuries but are said to be nearing full health, and are expected to make their way back to the main roster in the near future. The pair are former Raw and NXT Tag Team Champions but haven't held gold in a very long time. And will their name change be a sign of a new push on TV? Time will tell. On this week's Dynamite, Bryan Danielson choked Jon Moxley with a necktie, which wasn't just payback for All Out, but a nod to Bryan choking Justin Roberts when Nexus debuted in 2010. On Instagram, Robert shared a ringside photo of Danielson's attack saying that, "I feel your pain" in the caption, as the announcer hasn't forgotten his run-in with the American Dragon. Over to TNA Wrestling now, as 3 NXT superstars made an appearance on the latest episode of Impact, with the opening match of the show being focused on the NXT-TNA collaboration. That match saw Rosemary and NXT's Wendy Chu take on Jordynne Grace and a mystery partner, which was announced by the official NXT-TNA liaison, Ariana Grace. Grace revealed that it'd be Sol Ruca, another standout of NXT, that'd be joining Grace, and the match came close to a decisive finish as Ruca hit the Soul Snatcher on Rosemary. That set up Grace to hit the Juggernaut driver, but their presumed victory was interrupted by Tasha Steelz, who attacked both Grace and Ruca, with the match being ruled a no contest. The NXT-TNA crossover has added an extra layer of excitement to both companies, and now Steelz is continuing to assert herself in the Knockouts division. Perhaps Steelz could soon make her presence felt in NXT and the Gold Brand's women's division, as fans are eager to see where this collab leads and how it affects storylines. Impact also saw Lei Ying Lee, better known to WWE fans as Xia Li, make her successful debut as she got a win over Hyan with a spinning kick she calls Thunderstruck. Lee was released by WWE in April 2024 but has remained active on the independent scene, gaining momentum and honing her skills before landing in TNA. With a solid first showing, Lee appears poised to shake up the women's division, and fans are excited to see what's next for the talented competitor. Lee is ready to make TNA her new home and already is being promoted as a force to be reckoned with, meaning it may not be long until we see her higher up the card in the future. What are your thoughts on Lei Ying Lee's debut in TNA? Do you think her addition to the roster will shake up the Knockouts division? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Now, the last time TNA released a video game, it was in 2011 as TNA Impact launched on iOS and Android, and that game is no longer available to download. It's been even longer since TNA fans could play as their favorite stars in a console game, but with the collaboration with NXT, could TNA have a role to play in WWE 2K25? During a recent Q&A on Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp was asked if TNA stars could be in WWE 2K25 through the WWE agreement, or if TNA would need a separate deal with 2K. Sapp explained that approval from TNA would be required, and a separate agreement with 2K and WWE would need to be signed. That's because TNA talent, like so many in wrestling, are classified as independent contractors, and as a result, they cannot be licensed out without proper approval. What's your take on WWE 2K including TNA wrestlers in their next video game? Who do you hope to see above anyone else? Let us know what you think in the comments section. In 2024, CM Punk has been occupied with his war with Drew McIntyre, which many predict will come to an end next month inside Hell in a Cell. The two are tied with 1 win each at PLEs, and their match at Bad Blood will be the rubber match, but what's next for CM Punk after the Scottish Warrior? During his 103.5 KISS FM in Chicago interview, Punk was asked that question and said he has a list of talented superstars he wants to face. Punk said there's some names from his past he'd like to get back in the ring with, including Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, and John Cena, the latter of whom will retire in 2025. Punk also named talent that he wants to wrestle for the first time, including Damian Priest and Ludwig Kaiser, and added that World Heavyweight Champion Gunther is obviously on his list. Punk also recalled a loose promise to main event Madison Square Garden with Damian Priest, and said that Chad Gable is a name who really sticks out for him as a future opponent. The Chicago-made star also mentioned Dominic Mysterio, who he faced at live events last year, and who are you most excited to see CM Punk face? Give us your pick in the comments. For some time, the Undisputed Kingdom hasn't been a whole unit, as not only is Adam Cole out with an injury, but Wardlow hasn't competed since Big Business in March. On the Stick to Wrestling podcast, Matt Taven discussed the group, which recently celebrated its 1-year anniversary, albeit without Cole and Wardlow. Cole is recovering from a broken ankle that required 2 surgeries to repair, and on the podcast, Taven shared what has been keeping Wardlow off of TV. He said, "Wardlow's out with a knee injury, and as a guy with plenty of knee injuries in the past, they can be tricky. You start to think they're one thing, then they're another. You think, oh, I can get away with doing this or that, and it seems to be more serious. I think he's just trying to figure out the best treatment plan to get him back on track." When asked for more on Cole, Taven shared that he doesn't have an update on the former NXT champion, but stressed the importance of Cole getting to full health before an in-ring return. Taven added that it's not productive to speculate about Adam Cole's recovery timeline, stating that it's more important for him to heal properly, and Cole's long-term health is the priority. Unfortunately for Adam Cole, this year-long hiatus isn't his first setback in AEW, and we're wishing for the best to him and Wardlow with their respective injuries. After this week's Dynamite, AEW taped its Grand Slam edition of Collision that'll air this Saturday, giving fans in Arthur Ashe another 2 hours of wrestling content. We've got a major development from that taping, and this is your official spoiler warning, so if you don't want to get spoiled, we recommend skipping the next 30 seconds of this video. During the taping, Hologram defeated the Beast Mortos and Dralistico, but after the match, Roosh led an attack in which Mortos and Dralistico attacked Hologram. This was effectively Mortos' heel turn, as he has now aligned himself with the LFI, and we'll have to see what's in store for him as he's now working with Roosh's faction. In 2022, Saraya debuted for AEW after over a decade with WWE, and now fans can expect to see more of the former women's champion in Tony Khan's company. According to Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp, Saraya has re-signed with the promotion on a 1-year agreement, with her contract now running until September 2025. As for what'll come after that date, only time will tell, but expect plenty more from Saraya in AEW over the next 12 months. Earlier this year, Ricochet parted ways with WWE and was written off TV with an attack by Braun Breaker and has since joined AEW. Ricochet's WWE exit means he's no longer on the road with his fiancée Samantha Irvin, but the Raw ring announcer was supportive of Ricochet's big decision. On Talk Is Jericho, Ricochet said the pair have a really good relationship, and Irvin's belief was that whatever makes Ricochet the happiest is what he should do. In this case, that was choosing to leave WWE and join AEW, as the pair are more than happy to support one another, albeit from different companies. From October 2019 to April 2021, AEW Dynamite and WWE NXT went head-to-head in the battle for ratings, with AEW's flagship show typically coming out on top. Next month, the two shows will go head-to-head again, as AEW will host its Title Tuesday show on October 8th, which will be NXT's second night on the CW. It turns out this won't be the only time AEW and NXT face off this year though, as WrestleVotes Radio reports that the two shows will once again do battle on Wednesday, November 6th. NXT will have his show on Wednesday night, as the US presidential election will be on Tuesday, November 5th, and WWE realizes NXT would be slaughtered in the ratings. Fans can expect stacked shows from both sides for these two head-to-head battles, and we'll have to see whether it's AEW or NXT who emerge triumphant on these two nights. More from AEW, as this week's Grand Slam Dynamite was a huge show, and Tony Khan had some fun once the show went off the air. In fan-recorded footage from inside Arthur Ashe Stadium, Khan can be seen dancing with TBS champion Mercedes Mone and busting out some moves inspired by the CEO. Mone didn't compete at Grand Slam, and it remains to be seen when her next title match will be, but she and Khan clearly had fun after this week's Dynamite. Earlier this year, it was announced that SummerSlam 2026 will be a 2-night show at Minneapolis' US Bank Stadium, but this won't be the first 2-night SummerSlam. This week, WWE CCO Paul Triple H Levesque shared that SummerSlam 2025 will also be a 2-night event and will be at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey on August 2nd and 3rd. The news was also broke by award-winning artist Cardi B, as she shared a video promo for the show in which she confirms the news about SummerSlam with Bianca Belair. SummerSlam 2025 will mark WWE's first 2-night PLE outside WrestleMania, and while no matches are confirmed, fans can expect John Cena at the biggest party of the summer. After all, this will be Cena's last chance to wrestle at SummerSlam before his retirement, and with 2 nights to fill, expect a stacked show when WWE heads to New Jersey next August. Since arriving in AEW, Buddy Matthews has been a part of the House of Black alongside Brody King, Malachi Black, and Julia Hart. The group has seen plenty of success, including being former AEW Trios champions, but is there an expiration date for AEW's Macabre faction? During a recent virtual signing for KNS WrestleFest, Matthews was asked about the group possibly breaking up and hopes to avoid the trope of a member turning on the others. He said, "We don't necessarily have to go down the same path as every other group where it disbands in a bad way. Like where we can still be under the same umbrella but go and do our own thing. I think we're very supportive." Matthews also noted that ultimately their presentations within AEW aren't entirely in their control, and whether they remain a trio or go their separate ways is creative's decision. But what do you think should happen? Should the House of Black split up, amicably or otherwise, or should they remain a unit? Give your thoughts down in our comments section. These days, female referees are quite common in WWE, with the likes of Jessica Carr and Aja Smith being excellent examples of officials in the ring. The referees in NXT are new in comparison, and now another female referee has joined their ranks, as PW Insider reports that Victoria D'Erico has been hired by WWE. D'Erico participated in a WWE tryout during WrestleMania week in Philadelphia earlier this year, and has a background in boxing, but will be working as a referee in NXT. We'll have to wait and see when D'Erico begins her journey as a referee now she's officially part of WWE, but with her boxing background, expect her to lay down the law in matches she officiates. And we are ending with Nigel McGuiness, who in 2022 ended his stint as a commentator for WWE NXT UK, and later that same year, returned to Ring of Honor and debuted for AEW. As part of build for his match against Bryan Danielson, AEW uploaded a Best of Nigel McGuiness video to their official YouTube, which primarily focused on his ROH run. However, WWE stepped in and issued a DMCA takedown on the video, leading to its removal from YouTube, despite the video having no connections to his time with NXT UK. This move has raised questions among fans and is likely due to WWE's strict policies on intellectual property, despite McGuinness's ROH footage being unrelated to his WWE career. Why do you think WWE has issued the DMCA takedown? Do you think the video will be re-uploaded as it doesn't have any WWE footage? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.